As I left Rusty's house, I was hit with a flood of emotions. It was unlike myself to grow such an attachment to another person so quickly. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. It's crazy to say, but it felt like what I imagined having a grandfather would feel like. I couldn't speak from experience, as mine were gone before I could even form memories. But this is exactly what I imagined it would have been like. The feeling of home in a house that didn't belong to you. The sense of comfort in the wisdom of another. The instant respect when they open their mouth to share a shred of that knowledge with you. Yeah, that has to be what having grandparents must feel like. One thing is for certain. I will stop at nothing to get his medicine back to him. And honestly, part of me wishes I could just hold up here to make sure nothing happens to him. But I won't be able to rest until I know what's become of the guys. Who knows? Maybe we will all come back and become Rusty's woodland neighbors. I suppose only time will tell. I traveled east following the dirt road that passed in front of Rusty's property. It led directly to the town that the pharmacy was in. To say this road was rural would be an understatement. Hills and valleys with trees and fields passing on either side. This is what made me fall in love with Oklahoma in the first place. This is why I chose to spend so much of my free time in nature. Even in such a horrific time, you couldn't help but to appreciate the beauty. After traveling for a half hour or so, I came to a small stream that passed under a bridge that was part of the road. I took the opportunity to stop for a moment by the water to inspect the rifle that I'd gotten from the Void guy. It was an M4 style rifle with a shorter barrel, maybe 7.5 inches. It had a suppressor attached to the end of the barrel. It's obvious that this was purpose-built for close quarters urban environments. I ejected the magazine and removed the round from the chamber. I wanted to unload the magazine to get a round count, since that is critical information, as I can't just run to the store to buy more. Looks like with the round that was chambered, I have 21 rounds of 300 blackout remaining. The magazines that were in the tactical vest had all been used and were empty. Damn. I wish I had more ammunition, but this would have to do. I reloaded the magazine and chambered a round. Then I engaged the safety and sat the gun to the side. During the short pause, I took a moment to eat a few more saltines and refill my water bottle. It was probably short-sighted of me not to take advantage of Rusty's well when I had the chance. I'll have to remember that whenever I get back. After 10 to 15 minutes, I packed up my belongings and continued towards the town. I continued down the road for another half an hour. At this point, the town was visible just in the distance. Now is when it all gets real. The chances of avoiding the chains is basically zero. How should I handle it if I run into one, or even worse, a group? I definitely don't want to draw more attention to myself than is absolutely necessary, but every time they get close, it's a gamble with my life. It seems the only correct answer is, there isn't one. Assess the situation and act. It's not just my life on the line now. At last, I was just on the edge of town. I ducked behind the closest building. It looked to be an abandoned hardware store, which by the looks of it, hadn't been open for business for at least a few years before the world fell apart. On the back side of the building, I found an old service ladder that led to the roof. Though it looked well weathered, I decided to climb it to get a better view of the town proper. Two stories up a creaky ladder, what could go wrong? When I reached the top, I crawled under the roof, thankful that the ladder held together, for now at least. I stayed low and approached the front edge of the building, avoiding a few areas of the roof that looked to be in disrepair. From the edge, I was able to get a fairly good lay of the land. Fortunately, there weren't many multi-story buildings in the area, so I had a clear view of the entirety. After a few moments of scanning, I found it. 3 blocks to the east and 2 to the north stood Dixon Family Pharmacy. Okay, not too far. I focused along the route, looking for any signs of the changed. At first, nothing stood out. Shit. A block to the east of the pharmacy, there was a swarm of 8 or so changed, walking around a building that looked to be the town hall. I spent about 5 minutes observing the area until I was satisfied that I had seen all that there was to see. Reluctantly, I began climbing down the ladder, holding my breath for most of the way down. I made it. Solid ground had never felt so good. My heart was pounding. After catching my breath, I started east down the road. There were bodies littering the sidewalk, several having been completely torn in half. I will never get used to seeing this shit. I'm sure the toll it's taken on me will show itself eventually. One block down. It was the same story on the next block, only this time I could see movement. There were several chains that were eating some of the corpses on the ground. It took every ounce of restraint that I had not to engage those fucking monsters. I hated them, and I hated those void bastards for having a hand in this. And for Tommy. I could feel my anger trying to push my feet into recklessness, but I couldn't let that happen. I've got to get back to Rusty. I pushed forward. 2 down, 1 more to go, then north. I did my best not to overthink the last block east. I didn't want to get pulled into another rage by what I was seeing. I'm too close to fuck this up. Finally. I had reached the road that the pharmacy was on. There were fewer bodies, and I couldn't see any movement. That's great news. I continued north, picking up my pace as the pharmacy was now in sight. I approached the front of the building and looked through the glass doors. I wanted to get an idea of what I was about to walk into. I couldn't see anything of note from the front. I checked the door. Of course, locked. It was never going to be that easy. I looked around the surrounding area for something to smash out the front glass with. It would make quite a bit of noise, but I don't have a choice. This should do. I found a loose brick and a small retaining wall around the side of the pharmacy. I picked it up and went back to the front of the building. I lifted the brick over my head and threw it at the large pane of glass. It instantly shattered into thousands of tiny crystals. I have to admit, even though the power was out, I still half expected to hear a burglar alarm. Instead, I was met with silence. Even the shattering glass was nowhere near as loud as I was expecting. Still, I didn't want to spend too much time here, especially with a group of changed only a road over. Flashlight and pistol in hand, I moved towards the back of the pharmacy to the area behind the desk. I was searching for Plavix for Rusty. I may as well just grab all that I can get my hands on. I should also load up on any antibiotics that I see. Let's see, Plavix. Here it is. I found a bulk style bottle with a Plavix branded label on the side. This should last Rusty for quite a while. You've got to be kidding me. I scrambled to load my bag with whatever bottles I could fit. I would have to sort through them later. Hopefully I grabbed something useful. It took just a few seconds to fill the remaining space in the bag. I zipped it up and went for the door. As I rounded the corner and the front door came into view, oh God, one of the chains pushed its way through the front door. Out of pure reaction, I aimed and fired, putting it down. Then, the floodgates opened and hell was let loose. Fired several more times as the change flooded through the front door. It was like putting a band-aid on an arterial bleed. Fucking pointless. I had to change course, and fast. I scrambled towards the back of the storefront, pulling over several racks loaded with merchandise to hopefully slow down the bastards. I was able to break line of sight around a corner, and then I ducked into an old maintenance closet. Shit. I did everything in my power to be as quiet as possible and to calm my nerves. This was hardly a great escape, but I'm alive. I could hear the moans and screeching crescendoing above what seemed to be countless footsteps. This had to be more change than what I saw congregating around town hall. What a fucking mess. What do I do now? No windows in a damn closet. My only way out of this building is back out the door that I just came through. I hit the floor, and not a moment too soon, several new rays of light were shining through multiple round holes that were now in the wall at what would have been head height. After mere seconds, silence. And then,
Garza, search the building and find out what set off that fucking alarm, then meet us back at base camp.
Shit, this sounded like it was probably more void. I placed my pistol back in its holster and quietly swapped to the rifle. I made sure I had the selector in the third position and pushed myself to the back of the closet. As soon as this door opens, I'm giving it all I've got. I listen carefully as the footsteps move throughout the building, methodically searching room to room. At this point, my chest hurt from how hard my heart was pounding. I could hear the footsteps move away from the portion of the building that I was in, and then nothing. Several minutes of silence. Must have. I came to laying in the closet. So much pain. I clicked on my flashlight to assess my situation. First, I shined my light to where Garza stood. They looked to be dead. They had fallen against the door, propping it open. Then I moved the light over my body. I had been shot just an inch below my right collarbone. Though I couldn't see it, I could tell that I had also been hit on the side of the face and ear. This is not good. I dragged myself to my feet and approached Garza. I checked to verify that they were no longer breathing. They weren't. Per tradition, I took their PDA and thumb. I also made sure to grab the one unused magazine that they had for their rifle and swapped it into mine. I stumbled towards the front door and started the journey back to Rusty's. Truth be told, I have very little memory of the journey back. Just flashes of hazy blurs and my face rapidly approaching the ground. I don't know if it took an hour or days. I just know that I was in bad shape, and I probably had lost a considerable amount of blood. I can't die before I get these meds back to Rusty. I have to keep pushing. Just at the edge of my blurred vision, I could see light. I focused with all of my might, and I was finally able to make out the familiar shape of Rusty's house. I'm surprised I was able to recognize it in the dark. My immediate reaction was to want to sprint towards the house, but I knew my feet would not oblige that request. I would settle for not falling in the dirt again. After an excruciating amount of time, I stood at the bottom of the stairs, which from the ground may as well have been a mountain. I took a deep breath for one final push and took my first step. Then black. Before we jump into our regular credits, I wanted to say thank you to Pitter Splatter for allowing us to use their song Radiation off their album Wastelands for this episode. In Dying Days is written and produced by Bobby Richardson, with editorial advising from Mike Dodge and Ethan Cartwright. Gavin was voiced by Bobby Richardson. Agent Garza was voiced by Boyd Richardson. Void Captain was voiced by Bobby Richardson. The Zombie was voiced by Bobby Richardson. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you next time on In Dying Days.